I was in first class. The seat was just so comfortable. And that was it. I was like, this is exactly what I needed. And in 6 hours, my book was done.
That is incredible and unreal. It's easy to fall into any situation. Like you could go to a party and be like, well, she's prettier than me and she's thinner than me and she has nicer shoes than me and her husband treats her better than mine. And they're like, I mean, you can do that, or you can go into a party and be like,
Get ready for real and raw discussions as we dive into
navigating mixed race relationships and motherhood,
to the intersections of our lives,
money, and so much more.
Welcome back to the Blindian Brown Girls. We're here.
We're here. We have to get this welcome sequence. Can we just say, hey?
Hey.
Hey guys. So we were talking in our last episode, we kind of left off by talking about, and hopefully this will play the next episode. In a previous episode, we were just talking about, relationship with self, right? And spending time with self. So beyond just relationship with self, actually intentionally spending time with yourself. And I was thinking about it since we talked about it a little bit, just the idea of people who are introverts, introverted and extroverted, right? Which is different than what I think a lot, the real definition of what that is I think different than what a lot of people think it is, right? And so do you think that has something to do with it? And what do you view as introvert and extrovert?
Introvert for me, or the way that I understand it, is an introvert is energized by spending time with themselves. And an extrovert is energized by spending time with people. Mm-hmm. And then I have been embracing what I call ambivert, which is we flip-flop. And I believe that I'm a flip-flopper. But I'm an extrovert. I think there's also nuances, right? Most people see me as an extrovert, whereas in reality, I'm actually super shy, super don't like to go up to people and start random conversations. I hate parties, networking meetings. I will literally go and hide in a corner.
That is not how you present, for sure. That's not, I can see how that's not the perception.
Right. Yeah. And it doesn't come out that way because I'm very infrequently in those situations.
Is that purposeful?
Yeah, absolutely. I hate it. Why am I going to do something I hate?
For real. I mean, for sure.
But I do end up at conferences where I don't know anybody. It's still surprising to me that there are conferences where I know nobody. So I went to this conference this year and I knew one person.
Wow. Yeah, because you've been doing what you do for a long time. Yeah. So, and I imagine as with most communities, when you really boil it down to the people who've been around and
you're it's all the same people over and over again. And most of the time I go places and people know me. Mm-hmm. So that's great because I won't go up to anybody, but they'll come up to me and start conversation or whatever. So that this conference, I literally just knew one person and we were butt buddies the whole time because I don't know nobody. I'm not. But I met a few people through her because she's social. Okay. So that was nice. But it's not what I like to be doing. It's exhausting.
Yeah, it can be very draining, I think, especially if that's not where your natural source of energy comes from. I think I too am an ambivert, which is interesting because I've never thought about it that specifically. I think I'm more introverted than extroverted, but I do very well in social situations and I'm very comfortable in them and I don't mind them, but that's not where I get my energy. And I think also because I can read people's energy very, very quickly, I will shut off parts of myself so that I'm not affected in certain situations very quickly. And I will avoid certain people. Like if I don't feel your energy, or like I can quickly tell if, I want to engage with that energy or not. And so then sometimes I will stay there because there's a reason to or whatever, but I'll be very aware in that moment that like the switch goes off very quickly and I won't allow myself to like walk away with that. You know what I mean? No,
And you
no,
have filters.
for sure, for sure. And like I think people ask me about that with my work a lot too, because I deal with some heavy stuff, and there and people pour out their energy to me, right? And they give me a lot of their sadness to hold, and I have to hold space for that, and their grief and their worry and stuff like that. But I am excellent at turning it off. But I think about my clients all the time, but I think about them in ways where I'm like, how can I support them? What can I do to um, guide them differently? But I don't take on the energetic portion of it. And then I know that I have to go fill myself up a lot, which is what we were kind of talking about, which is, for me, I love time by myself. Like I cherish it. Like I love it. So I build it in intentionally. And those are the things that I do that help me like filter all of it and not bring it with me and be in situations, I think, where, sometimes I am also similarly very uncomfortable in social situations, but like I'll just, I guess, flip the switch in my brain for like, I know why I'm here. Or there's like a task at hand or something like that. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard. Um, and just like then go do something for myself to like, you kind of balance it back out, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's sort of like if you were filling your cup and then you like pour that cup out if you're in circumstances that need it, and then you have to refill.
Refill. And
Right.
and I'm very aware of how refill, like the quickest, best, most efficient way to refill. And I think that might be the piece that people sometimes miss, where they get depleted of energy or take on a lot of people's energy. People walk around, a lot saying, I'm an empath, and I can't help it. But I don't believe that you can't help it. Like you can always help it. Like you can help it. Like I'm 1000% an empath, but I control it like at like beyond, like I can control it more than I will let it in. So I can be aware, like you can be aware of people's energy. You can feel for people. You can be with someone energetically, but not take that on for yourself personally and not carry it into your life. And I think that's a choice.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, same, like I can certainly pick up people's energies and just kind of take on their shit. And I have in the past, but it's really like you need boundaries, and it's more energetic boundaries at that point. It's not like you're physically doing anything different, but you have to have like a very clear shield.
For sure.
I can be compassionate without taking on your shit.
Exactly. And I think that that's like where I think that might be the fine line, I think, between people who can genuinely help and guide and people who just empathize and feel in the experience. You know what I mean? Because I think in order to be a person in a position to guide other people through their hardships, you have to be able to empathize with it, but you also have to be able to detach from it. And in order to detach from it healthily, you have to be able to find a way to fill your own cup, and you have to be able to like self-soothe and like find fulfillment in things that bring you whatever it is, happiness.
Yeah. So I guess I'm curious because I guess I fill my cup in interesting ways.
What does that mean?
Well, I'm just thinking about like, what do I do to fill
Don't
my
leave
cup?
people with that because they will go all sorts of places with that thought.
No, I'm thinking like, okay, I meditate. I go to the gym. I just do normal things, I guess, like massage,
But
like
it's normal to you, right? But there's like, that's not like people will not do those things too, right? Like lots of people who are out here feeling terribly and heavily and taking on people's energy who don't then sit and meditate and don't then go to the gym. So it's regular, but it's still intentional.
yeah, it is. It is.
Meditation, by the way, is not regular.
Like, huh? Okay.
It's not. We just talked about that, remember?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that's true.
Yeah, I think you're discounting the fact that you are actually very intentional about filling your cup. You know what I mean?
Of course. But I guess I'm curious about this, like taking yourself out. Like I've literally never done it. And
I find that I find that so like I would just imagine that you are someone who takes themselves out all the time. Why I made that assumption?
but I think I'm a homebody, right? Like when I'm home, I'm just home. Like I have no desire to be out. And then if I have a desire to be out, it's usually with people.
Socially.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe that's just your jam. That's okay. That's good.
Okay.
That works for you. You don't gotta take yourself out.
I'm missing out.
No. So I think it depends on like what you find pleasure in, right? Like I also similarly love being home. I didn't used to love being home. That was never my thing. I used to love being out. Um, but now I like love, I told you, like I was home yesterday and I was in home heaven. I mean, I'm home every day. I work from home, but like there's just something very peaceful about being home yesterday. I think I had no
You didn't have appointments.
I had no clients and I knew what I was going to focus on and I did it from the couch. Like I didn't even sit in my office yesterday and I was like I'm going to just do this day the way I want to do it. And listen, like I still got shit to do, like other responsibilities and errands to run and pick up the kids and whatever. But in those hours that I knew that I had to myself, I think I filled back my cup, overflowed it and made sure that I was like good to go. I also like build in daily that time, which I think we've talked about before, and I think you do as well, where I wake up very early in the morning. Now it's 4:30, so it's like the crack of dawn. No, not even. It's before the crack of dawn. And I love that time. And sometimes like our dog Brooklyn will wake me up before that just because like, her stomach, she has a very sensitive stomach. So like, and sometimes it'll be like 3 something or 4. And there are some mornings where I'll be like, I'm good. I'm not going to go back to sleep and I'll work or I'll meditate, I'll journal. Like I'll do my morning practice first, but like it's happening at 3:34 in the morning. And then I will work and I will just have time. Like I'll read, I'll just do like and I'm so full of energy and I like wish for that time not to end. By the time it's like 6:30 and like I know my son is waking up and like I make him a bagel every morning, I'm like, like my day has to start. It's only 6:30. But like I feel so full by that time. So I love that, but I also love going out. So and I have a husband who doesn't find as much pleasure in like restaurants and like he's not a foodie. I am very much a foodie. Um he'll hang with me and we'll go, but like I take so much more pleasure in it. So I do enjoy doing that with girlfriends for sure, but I really enjoy doing that by myself. Like I really, really enjoy it. So it's because it's something I enjoy. I also know that that's something that like fills my cup in a way that like I need. So that's why I do that particular thing. It's not like I go to the movies by I've done that many times too. Like, and I have no problem with that.
Another thing that I've never done.
Oh yeah. I think that because I was forced into it on some level when I worked in fashion and I used to travel by myself, like go to museums by myself. And when I worked in fashion, you know, traveling was an opportunity. Like it was also an expectation that, especially because I was in on the creative side of things at that time and doing, you know, creative display for stores all over the world, that it was necessary for me to go check out cities and museums and art galleries and film and libraries, or just architecture. Like I would go on a lot of architectural tours because that's where the inspiration would come from. And so, yeah, I'd be on an architectural tour by myself, like at a museum, checking it out by myself. And I just got really used to it. And I think there was people I worked with who would do everything in their power to like try to do the trip with somebody else or not do that. And there wasn't a lot of other people in my company who had to travel as much as I did, one, and two, by themselves. Most of the other people were traveling in a group. I had a very unique position. And because I was very good at what I did, my boss would just send me on my own. And I was like in my early mid 20s and late 20s. And so I just got used to like doing it. And then I came to really enjoy it. My favorite times in the world were when I was on an airplane in the middle of the night and like there was no contact with the rest of the world and like nobody knew where I was. It was like the most like meditative experiences that I've ever had. It felt like freedom on just like I'm in the middle of the air, in the middle of like wherever, who knows what beneath me. And I'm just flying and it's the nighttime and it's pitch black and the plane is dark and nobody can contact me and nobody knows where I am right now. I don't even freaking know where I am. I know I'm on my way somewhere, but like there was just this freedom to that idea and just me being with myself. And I'm the only one present right now. That was just incredible for me. Does this sound so weird?
It's a little weird, but
What's weird about it? Like, because I want to know what's weird.
I think it's interesting that it's like, A, I've never experienced it, but B, like I've been on plenty of trips myself, right? Like I fly all the time by myself. But I don't, and I relate to your experience of like the quiet. I've written most of my books have been written on planes. And I will intentionally like sometimes be like, where do I need to go? Because I need to whip out a chapter. Like I have some writing to do and I do my best writing on planes.
That's cool. Why do you think that is?
It is like, I don't know. It's something about like there's nobody knows you and you're just like in it.
Yeah, so it's exactly the same.
But there's something about being in the air that is like an extra layer that, yeah.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's like a different realm almost. I don't know. Like maybe it's just like clearly it's a truth, but it's also a perception. Like we're feeling something about the experience of it, right? But I think like for people who are, because I think people who are not comfortable flying, they're probably not whipping out a chapter of the book. So there has to be some kind of association with being in the air, so I think you actually have a similar weird thought or feeling than I do.
Yeah, I connect with that piece of it. But for me, it's often turned into like, oh, I'm going to like write, right?
Okay.
Like I just go on planes to write.
Okay, that's weird. It's not weird.
Oh, my first book, Fertility Secrets, what your doctor didn't tell you about baby making. Most of that book was written on a flight, like a 6-hour flight from California to the East Coast. I happened to have upgraded the ticket just because they were like, oh, would you like a free upgrade? I'm like, yeah, I'll take it. So I was in first class. The seat was just so comfortable. And that was it. I was like, this is exactly what I needed. And in 6 hours, my book was done.
That is incredible and like unreal.
I was channeling some shit that was just like,
That's amazing.
and like just finished it and turned it in. And that was it.
Wow. Okay, so there is something energetic about it.
So weird. So weird. Like I haven't gotten back to that place. And like I'm working on book 3 and I'm like itching to be like, should I just do an upgrade? Like take a lot white and do an upgrade. And like
That's so funny. That's so funny. Or maybe there's just another way to recreate that, like, because I think sometimes, and maybe this is going off on a tangent, but like maybe you can't recreate it, right? You just want to recreate that energy, like that inspiration, that feeling, that motivation, that clarity, that all those things that you were experiencing that created you being able to write the book. So I wonder if there's another environment or another experience that you can create for yourself, because you'll be disappointed if you try to do that and it doesn't come. You'll be really, really disappointed. You'll be frustrated, and it might create different results than what you're expecting.
I've already tried to recreate it without doing the first class flight. I was like, can I do this on economy? Can I have the same book? And like, I'll get through some of it, and then I'll be like, I'm done. I can't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you're squeezed up beside the man next to you, it's not quite the same.
Doesn't help. People say, oh, I did like a trip so that I could write my book.
Mm.
But they're talking about like going somewhere and like
renting a cabin and yeah.
And I've thought about that also, because I'm like a little bit stuck with this book, and I'm like, something's missing. Like it's almost there, but something's missing.
Take yourself out for dinner. Maybe the inspiration will come.
Maybe.
For real, I would try different things. I would just try a couple of different things. I'm not saying write the book at dinner. I'm just saying like maybe just, outside of meditation, spend some time with yourself.
So you know what else? Here's an interesting piece. Have you done your human design?
No, but I'm like fascinated by human design. I mean, I've kind of know what it is, but like the girl who I was talking to about human design, like I did not agree with a lot of what she was saying. So like I need to go, like I'm going to dive deeper. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And I can, I did a course earlier this year. So yeah, if you want a referral,
yes.
But in that process, like I've dabbled in human design a few times. So I did a course a few years ago. It didn't make sense to me. It just mostly went over my head. And then this opportunity came up, and I was like, I should just try it. Try it again. But one of the key things that I remember from my design is that there are energy channels that open when I'm around different people. And I don't know what all of other people's human designs is, but there's this idea that basically if you have closed channels somewhere that or like click into place basically with other people's energies. So what part of what we might be experiencing on planes is most definitely like there are enough people in your environment on a plane that almost all of your channels are open. And that like I feel like I'm flowing because of that.
It's interesting.
Right? I'm just putting those pieces together. But like my coach for that was like, if you feel blocked about something, you need to take yourself into a public space because it opens up all of your channels.
Why does it do that?
I don't quite know the technical terms because human design is like a whole language.
Oh my God, it is. Yeah.
And like the words are different and like I don't remember any of it. But I can visually see it. Like I correlated it closest to chakras, but there are more channels than just the chakras. Okay. And the channels connect to each other. And if they connect, then that channel is open. Okay. If you have one open and one closed, that channel is not open. But it could be open if there was an opening.
Okay.
So if someone else, let's say you have this thing open and I have this thing open, then bing, we connect it and we open both of our channels.
So you gotta be careful about who you're around then. First. Yeah. And how would you know that?
You don't know that, but in theory, there's enough people around. There's bound to be.
Are people whose energies are matching yours or allowing yours to open up. and therefore there's
energy
more flow.
field is giving you what you need to like open.
That is freaking interesting. And now I got to go find out more about human design. I've really been like considering it a lot lately because, like, you know, I know more and more people are talking about it, and people are talking about their entrepreneurship journey through the lens of their human design and so on. And I'm like,
Coach. So she's like a human design coach for entrepreneurs.
for entrepreneurs, yeah, because I think, you know, being able to do your work through the lens of your human design, which is the way, I guess, your strengths, right? Like to lean into the things that you have more capacity for, stronger in, and be aware of those things that aren't really for you is probably very beneficial to entrepreneurship that can be so overwhelming and so much at times, you know?
Yeah. So I think putting yourself in public spaces is probably happening without you knowing it. It's like you go into a public space, there's a bunch of people around, who knows what energies they have, but they're helping you open all of your gates or whatever the thing is called.
And maybe that's so interesting. Like, I went somewhere the other day and I was just there for like 2-3 hours, and I took myself to a coffee shop and I did some work or whatever. But just being in that environment, just around these different people, like, they were very productive people doing stuff. Like, you could tell they were taking meetings, and it just, like, being around that energy re-inspired me, and it would like invigorated me. And I was like, this is interesting because, like, I wasn't expecting that kind of energy shift to happen. But I wonder if it was that. It was like, because it's the type of people I like to be around, and it's the type of energy that I do tend to connect with. I imagine that maybe that had something to do with it. Because, like, I can find energy in those types of environments too. Like, I can fill my cup through those types of, I don't even have to be engaged socially. I can just be in an environment. Like, I'm sure you experience this at like retreats or conferences where people are, you know, ambitious and they're moving forward and they're, you know, growth oriented or whatever. Just being around in spaces where there's enough people like that, I think also can, for me at least, it fills my cup.
Yeah.
Gives me a little imposter syndrome too, but it fills my cup.
Thank you for saying that, because I was like, yes, and it brings up all of that.
It absolutely brings up the shit, but it also reminds me of what's possible, available. Like, you have to quiet the other shit, because the other shit 1,000,000,000% comes up, but it comes up anyway. Like, it's
Well, yes and no, maybe. Yeah.
like, it's there. It wouldn't come up if it wasn't there, right? Like, it has to. If it wasn't there at all, it wouldn't come up no matter the environment. So it's there. It's just like, yeah, certain environments both like fill your cup and also have the chance of depleting it if they want to. But I think that that's, again, why, you know, knowing what your personal sort of brand is of filling your cup is important, so that you can go then do that to compensate for the depletion and just take what's good from those situations and from those experiences. Because it's easy to fall into any situation. Like, you could go to a party and be like, well, she's prettier than me, and she's thinner than me, and she has nicer shoes than me, and her husband treats her better than mine. And they're like, I mean, you can do that, or you can go into a party and be like, I'm, you know, here for very different reasons, right? Like, I'm showing up as me. I don't give a fuck if you're prettier than me, if your shoes are better than mine, or if your husband is treating you better. I can take different things from it, right? So, like, I think that you need to be able to be your own filler and filter at the same time.
Yeah. So interesting. I think, I think for me, I'm just tripping that, like, when I think about it, like, I do actually write pretty well at cafes. I just don't do it enough.
Why not? What stops you?
I never feel like I have time.
Well,
Right? Like,
yeah.
I need to be like, okay, I have 6 hours where I can just go and write. Right? And it like doesn't ever happen. I could, like, something will come out. There will be a fire inevitably for me to put out that day. But if I could turn my Wi-Fi off or like turn all the messaging off and be like offline, And in a cafe, I bet I could recreate that airplane experience.
Okay, so I'm going to challenge you to figure that out. I'm going to challenge you to take yourself offline, to turn it off, even if you have to check back in every like 2 hours or whatever it is. Give yourself the check-in if that's going to make you feel better. But for those other hours, it's kind of like a Pomodoro. It's just like an extended Pomodoro, right? So you get to take a break and check in, make sure that there's no fires. But also, I think a lot of times that there's a fire, it's like, it's a fire, but is it a little baby fire? Or is it a big raging, forest fire? Because some fires, we can wait till after our 6 hours are done to put out because like truly it's not going to change anything between now and then. Like I feel compelled to go put it out because it's, what feels the right thing to do. And, you know,
It's not always a necessity.
it's not.
No, it's not. It's just, and I think that's the piece is like being on a plane, you don't have a choice,
Yeah, that's
right?
part of
You
it.
don't have, even if you have Wi-Fi, like I'm not communicating with the outside world. And it's usually my team is not bugging me with questions.
Yeah.
If I'm around and I don't respond, then I'm like, well, she could be working on this if I just responded back, right? Or otherwise she's not going to do it and then it's going to hold up for 3 more days because
I haven't responded to this one thing and I didn't say this thing. Right. And I get that, but sometimes you just got to let that go, right? So in order to serve yourself better, right? And in order to like I've been really thinking about my boundaries around my schedule too, right? Because I don't take clients on Mondays and Fridays and I am like fully booked right now. So and it's the first time in my practice that I'm like this booked and I'm like, shit, should I open up another day? Cause like this, and people like evening appointments because a lot of my clients do have more traditional jobs. Also, I see couples, so I see them individually and together. So some of them do work from home so they can come in the day. And then I have clients literally all over the world. So I'm like, ooh, what do I do? And um, I sent an email that I was very proud of yesterday. I felt like a CEO yesterday, and I sent an email where I'm holding to my boundaries, and I have asked my clients to be, um, book in 3, 4 sessions at a time. If you like a slot, take the slot. You are always welcome to hit me up to see if there's something outside of what you see on the calendar. But I'm not going to open up Mondays and Fridays. I need those 2 days energetically for me. I also need those 2 days to continue to build my business. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And to like have a Friday like yesterday where I can lean into just not having to, like, I looked forward to it and I got so much energy back from just having that day to be able to rest and recover. I was supposed to have a session today. I was so happy that they canceled. That sounds terrible. But they rescheduled and I just really
Oh, so Mondays and Fridays you are off, but then you sometimes work on the weekends.
I do not take clients on the weekends. No, I don't take clients on the weekends. So I only see clients Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So it's a busy Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And I often work till, later into the evening because I do see like my evening clients. And I have East Coast clients who are an hour even later than we are, right? And then I have UK, no, they're an hour later on the East Coast than we are in Central. So, like, it will be 8 o'clock in the evening for them, and that, you know what I mean? It's 7 for us, and then I have the whatever. But I just really was like, okay, my business might be asking me to do this, but is there a way around it? How can I structure the rest of my time where I don't have to do that?" And I was really proud of myself. I also told them I'm gonna start charging for late payments. And I was just really proud of myself for holding to the thing that I know is going to keep me better energetically so I can serve them better. Because at the end of the day, it's really coming back to them.
Yeah, and if you're exhausted and drained, it doesn't help anybody. So, yeah.
No. So it, and thank you. And, like there was a part of my brain that was definitely, it's kind of like in conflict because there's a part of you that's also like, well, other people see people, 5 days a week. Or like, does this make me like, is this the right thing to do? Or, because you can build your business any way you want. And I used to see clients all 5 days a week, but I also knew what that was doing to me energetically. So I really did sit down and think about, like, what is the right thing for me, my business, and them,
Well, this is not a coaching session, but if you're maxed out, it's time to raise your rates.
Oh yeah, I'm slowly phasing out the lower tier people, and we're renewing either into higher or like we're gonna have to start looking at group and things like that for next year. Um, but yeah, like I think being able to know, like I think that was a moment of self-trust as well. Like I trusted myself above all of the rights and wrongs and
like what people are pulling you into.
or like the way other people operate their business, which, as an entrepreneur, like for me, this is my first time doing this, right? Like I've never built my own business before. I've built other people's businesses, but there were other people to help me do that, right? And there were people in areas that I still suck at, like finance and accounting, right? Like I didn't have to worry about that stuff. And so for me, I know that there are parts of my brain that need to be utilized in ways that for me is still, I'm learning and it's still new. And I like, I've learned to give myself grace with those things rather than beat myself up for not knowing those things. And so I need time and I need capacity for that. And so, I think it was very much a moment of self-trust. Like, you can actually build your business the way you want to build your business and still serve people the way that you want to serve them and in full integrity. And you can still take yourself out for dinner and you can still do all of the things. And I'm really leaning into a life where all of that shit is possible. And I think I, for a long time, didn't think I could get here. I'm not all the way where I want to be. By no means. By no means. But it's cool to see yourself be able to trust yourself and listen, like we were talking about in the previous episode about intuition. Allow yourself to go on that journey in trust and know then how to replenish when you're depleted and how to say no. And how are you with saying no and your boundaries? Like in general, like not this in business, but in life.
I think in the business, I'm pretty good. In life, not as good.
Okay. I think that's common. Yeah. Where do you find yourself in a predicament where you're kind of sometimes like pulled?
I think it's around stuff that I know needs to happen and somebody's just gonna have to do it. You know what I mean? Like somebody gotta cook if we're gonna eat.
Really? My next goal is to get a chef, girl.
Yeah, so we've been playing around with that already.
You should. You should. Yes.
We have a chef, but it's like such a balance of Avery's not going to eat what she prepares. He just isn't into it. So we still got to cook for this kid. There's still breakfast that needs to be covered, which usually Jason is handling, but he also is like, well, I don't get a break. We have a chef. I don't get anything out of that.
She doesn't make breakfast?
We're going to try breakfast this week. But it's an interesting balance. And we're just still like in the early phases of trying it out and seeing how it works. And she's an hour fucking away. So
wow.
We did delivery last week. We're like, yeah, we'll just pay for delivery because we don't feel like driving.
Yeah, that's far. That's far.
In Houston, of all places, which is like guaranteed to get lost.
Far. And an hour is like a whole nother city. Like it's just like an hour in Houston is not just like, because like I come from New York, right? So an hour in New York is like just getting across the street. You haven't gone anywhere, but it's taken you an hour. An hour in Houston is like you're in another world and now you have to go home.
Yeah. It just feels so far.
So how does that like play into your boundaries?
Well, it's just like in the past, it's been we have a rhythm of what we're cooking. Like I cook some meals, Jason makes breakfast, and then we've figured out Avery in the middle of all that. Um, and now we're just so there's some negotiations happening around what is working, what isn't working. Her food is like, it's good, but some of us aren't as happy with the food.
Some of us, of the three of you.
Some of us are not excited about the food. It's like repetitive.
Okay, so maybe there's someone else out here who is closer, and I know it's not the easiest. It's not the easiest.
Find me a vegan chef, please.
Actually, one of Ty's best friends is a chef. I will ask him to ask her if she knows anyone who's vegan, and she's very big here in Houston and knows pretty much everybody. So I will ask him to ask her for a referral for you. But yeah, like boundaries are hard, I think, for everybody. You know what I mean? I think, and they show up differently in different parts of your life. And I think it's common for people to have stronger ones in certain environments, like in work environments and in, at home or with parents or extended family versus like their boss. But I think that, you know, generally, if you're somebody who is aware enough to enforce boundaries in some parts of your life, then you're probably doing a decent job in the other parts, like, because you're not someone who just doesn't like listen to their boundaries at all. But yeah, I think that there's, yeah, I'm trying to think, like, do I struggle at this point with boundaries in any part of my life? I don't know. I don't think so anymore. I think I used to definitely be a people pleaser and worry a lot about being liked, and for that reason would do things or certain, make choices according to that. And I think I said, before, like I used to not enjoy my own time, like alone time at all. Like I used to do everything in my power to not be by myself. Like it's crazy how it's switched. And
Wait, like, what did you used to do
I used to want to be around people all the time for like,
when you were younger?
yeah, yeah, when I was younger, which may be a natural younger person thing, but I don't know. Cause like I have a child who is 13 and would rather not be around anybody as much as possible. He is a true introvert. Like he loves his own company. And I don't think you see it that acutely at that young age. Like he really enjoys his own company.
I feel like he's a teenager by now, yes. But has he always been like that?
He's always been like that. And that's just who he is. Yeah, like that's just who he is. And it's not like, we worried about it. And then we would like go to we just went to a performance that he had at school last week, and he's talking to everybody. And everybody knows him. And he's laughing and joking and smiling. And we're like, who the hell is that kid? Like, so it's not like, so we're no longer worried about it because he gets his fill and then he comes home and he's like, no, I'm good. Like I got my fill. And I look at his phone, so I see he texts with them. It's not like he doesn't have no friends on his text message. Like he's talking to them and stuff like that. But for him, he really just doesn't need that. Like he likes his home time and his weekend time to be his home time and his weekend time. Like that's what he wants. Right now he's at art class painting a painting, and that's his like greatest joy. You know what I mean? Like that's just who he is. And so, I think that's a rarer thing to see at that age. But like when I was younger, for sure, I would want to be around people. I did not like myself that much. So I think the inner critic was so loud that I had a really hard time being with myself because the predominant voice was critical, and it was unkind, and it was telling me the things that I hadn't done yet or should be doing or should have achieved and that I had not, even though I was a hyper overachiever and doing all the things. And I look back and I'm like, what kind of crazy mess was going on in your head? Because you were doing everything. So, but it was still never enough. And so like I wasn't pleasant to be around. my brain wasn't a pleasant place to be. And so, and it wasn't a pleasant place to be for many, many years. So I had to do a lot of intentional work, and I had a long history with mental illness. So I had to intentionally, I decided I am no longer going to live like this. I am no longer going to allow this voice to tell me the story that it's telling me. And it took years of work, and it has been years of work. And I started the work in my early 20s, and I'm 44. So it's been 20 something years of really working towards this. So I did not get here overnight, for sure. And there's much further to go, but it has been an intentional quest, for sure, because I was so terrible to myself, and I was so unkind to myself, and I was so um, unable to set boundaries, and um, especially with men. I was terrible with boundaries with men. I was good with boundaries with my own desire, my own ambition. Fantastic. Great. And it's all never been a problem, right? Like, I know what I want. I'm going to go get it. You can't tell me no. This is what I'm doing. You know what I mean? But with other parts of my life, no. And then that voice would criticize those parts, right? So it's just been an intentional journey to get here. And I think for that reason, because it's been so many years, I think now I don't really struggle with boundaries or people pleasing or doing things I don't want to do or saying yes when I mean no. The only time that might pop up every once in a while is in a social situation where it's like you feel like you want to do the thing. Like, there's a part of you that wants to, but there's also a part of you that's like, no, I really don't. But like, you kind of like, I do want to. And so I'll like, there's a little bit sometimes of a struggle there. And sometimes I'll say yes to something where I'll be like, oh, I don't want to do that thing. But sometimes then I'll be like, no, I don't want to do that anymore. And I think it's okay to change your mind too. Yeah. I think people feel like they're not allowed to change their mind once they commit to something.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you probably shouldn't change your mind once you've committed to something, but but I think it's okay to change your mind. And like we were, talking about another episode, I think you have to be okay with, this worked for me at one point and it no longer does. And like, that's the growth. Be like, okay, well, change is part of this process.
There is the like needing to find where your boundaries need to be. And like, yeah, I feel like that saying no piece, I have been learning and getting better with.
It's a process. I think there's also the other side of it where people say no without even considering a yes. They want it to be a yes, but they'll say a no because I'll make it make more sense. I think for a lot of moms, right, who have kids, right? Well, we can think about just friends and just in social circles and stuff like that, where it's like there are people who will not make time for themselves and say no, even though they desire the yes. Right? They want to maybe have a life outside their children or a life outside their family. And they feel obligated and compelled to say no because they feel like their priority should be over here and that this is where they should put their energy rather than recognizing that the yes that they're being called to is the thing that will give them more energy to bring back home. Right? Do you see that happening?
Oh yeah. I feel like that is really it's unfortunate when you see that happening.
And it
Because
happens
it's like they're not
around us.
they're not able to stay true to themselves or fill their cup or and I feel like that was I have seen my mom do that most of her life, right? Where she wanted to be doing other things, but no, I can't. Or well, I have to like prioritize and do what I need to for the family or whatever it is. And that's just how that generation was. But I definitely saw it and like decided pretty early on that I didn't want to be that person. So I feel like it's for me, I usually like if it's a yes, then I just like, how is this going to happen? Not if is it going to happen, but how? How do we make this happen? Um, and then if it's a no, then it's
It's just a no. And then you, like finding peace in the fact that it's a no and not like then second guessing your no, because like sometimes we'll do that too. And we'll like feel bad that then there's the FOMO and then there's like all the things, right? So, but yeah, I think it is an unfortunate affliction often of women. And interestingly, I think it like bleeds into the way that people see marriage in general, because like I hear from so many of my clients that, they don't have a good, healthy example of marriage, not from their parents or caretakers, not within their own, previous relationships, um, not amongst friends or siblings, that there's this idea that there's like a loss that happens of time, freedom, energy, money, like with marriage. Like, yes, there's the glossy stuff over here, the love and the wedding and stuff like that. But I think a lot of people think that beneath that is just hard and sacrifice and all this stuff. And it's like, it is only, yes, of course, there's a component of that, 1000%. And you are absolutely choosing that when you are choosing to partner with a whole nother human who has a whole nother life, right? Like, and trying to find a way forward together. But at the same time, it's like you build in the things that you need. And if you have not built those in, then you cannot be mad that they don't exist. And then you can't be like, well, it's only sacrifice. Well, you've not built in the antidote of sacrifice. You haven't built in things to fill your own cup. You have this idea that, you've already convinced yourself that this is the right way, and you're not considering that perhaps.
well, I think it's like a both and philosophy. Like, how do you hold your responsibility and do the thing you want?
For sure.
Or how do you commit to this and this other thing, right?
Absolutely.
And a lot of people don't have that both and, it's one or the other,
For
right?
sure.
And that's where like you just have to think bigger and be able to often I feel like it comes up for us in the context of relationship when it has to do with Avery, right? So we can like find that balance. There are times when one of us feels like the other person is um like, for example, my husband sometimes like, you travel too much, right? And that's a real thing. Like, I do travel too much. Even for my damn self, I travel too much. And um and it is just part of the job. So he's often like, well, every time I want to do something, you're traveling. So then I don't have, and I'm like, well, let's get childcare. Like, I'm okay with that. Let's find a place where I can still travel and you can do your thing and our child is taken care of, and that's okay. Versus feeling like, oh, you have to keep sacrificing for me to be able to travel. Like, I don't think that's fair. And I'm okay with finding solutions. But he's sometimes more hesitant with childcare. He just doesn't like
Trust it as much. I mean, that's such a sensitive thing too, right? Like, so that's an understandable one where it's like safety and it's your kid and things like that.
he's super overprotective and it's a good thing. Like, that's he's strong about the protectiveness, and that's fine. Like, I appreciate it. And our kid's 6. He'll get over it.
Yeah. And it's like sometimes that we might need to let go a bit so you can go do the things that you need to do, which, that's 1000% a lesson that like I had to learn as well when I did used to travel so much when Asaya was little. And, my ex-husband didn't have a problem with the traveling and he had a very demanding schedule as well. So we had to figure it out and it was very hard, very, 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 very hard. But in the moments that I was home, it was like, I was giving 100% of myself to my kid because I felt so badly and so guilty about being away. And that wasn't healthy either because there was no place within that I was filling myself up, right? It was like,
Yeah, and that I think I sometimes get into frequently. It's like when I come back from travel, then I'm like, oh, I'm giving 120% to my partner, my kid, my work, and there is no space for the me time.
And that's when it becomes even more important to find it, right? And I think that's where the and comes in. It's like you have to, and sometimes even finding it, and this sounds ridiculous, but it is true, even finding it sometimes requires sacrifice. So like for me, I sacrifice sleep, right? I mean, I don't need a tremendous amount, but I would rather have that time in the morning to know that I am good and have done my journaling and my meditation and even like start like gotten something off my mind that is on my mind, if it's like a creative idea or something I want to finish for work or whatever it might be. Like that for me is more important than that extra hour of sleep in that moment, right? Like in that moment. Maybe I will find an extra hour of sleep on a different day, probably not, but maybe I will. But you get the point of what I'm saying. Is like, so maybe in those moments, coming back from the trip, it's like, okay, this is when I dedicate the 120%, but there's a limit to that, right? There's a, all right, I came back on Friday, you get 120% till Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, I got to do something to like, fill me back up. And then I'll be back with you, right? It's because filling you back up doesn't have to be a 3-week process, right? Yeah, no. When we do it in doses that, we kind of maintain our like blood sugar level, you know what I mean? Then it doesn't get depleted so far down that you have to like, go to the, I don't know, like Saudi Arabia to get some oil to fill yourself back up. Like, you know what I mean? Like I think that's the and too. It's like, I can do this. And there's a part of me that feels like, because like mom guilt is a real thing. It's a real freaking thing. It's a real thing. But it's like, how do I live knowing that there's going to be mom guilt, but also still find a way to like, because then otherwise you become resentful, right? Like I surely did, resentful, not of my kid, but like of the circumstances and the frustration around that feeling. Because like, again, if you're not getting what you need, then it's hard to feel at peace and safe and comfortable for yourself. And so like, with what energy are you doing the 120%, right? Like, and what energy are you directing towards your husband who is like, you travel too much? I think there's still there's definitely a way forward, but yeah, it's hard. It's hard. It is, yeah. To consider all the things. That's one thing that I have let go of almost at 100% is like overcompensating for those types of things, because I think maybe now I've also been a mother for 13 years and I'm like, my kid's gonna be okay. Yeah. Like if I go out for dinner, they're gonna survive. Like, if I go on a trip, they're also gonna survive. Like, in fact, I think it's really healthy for my kids to see this and to because I want my son, if he ever should choose to get married, because that would be wild in itself if he should ever choose to find partnership with someone. And if he doesn't, that's fine too. Like, I am so like, I have no predetermined ideas for what my children's life should look like. I really don't. I really am okay with them choosing whatever direction they choose to go in. But should he choose that, I would want him to choose someone that can do these things, where he doesn't feel I don't know, threatened by it, or like he's seen it before. And if she doesn't do these things, that's fine too, right? But like, I want him to be in, if he was to find a woman who does travel or is super ambitious or runs her own business or, switches careers or is, someone who really prioritizes work, but also has family, like I want him to already know how to be inside of that environment. I don't want that to be brand new to him. I want him to be able to be like, okay, well, I saw this before. Yeah. Like there's a lot of different ways, because the other example already exists. Like, I mean, he doesn't live inside of it, but there's a lot of programming in the world that will show women being at home and women, whatever. Like he'll get that messaging, right?
Oh yeah.
I think for me, and this is 100% the part of my personal value set, so this is not for everybody, but like for me, it's really important that he sees this too, because I can't change who I am.
Yeah. And for your daughter to have an example of what it looks like also.
Yes.
Like she needs to know
For her.
like, yeah, I wish I had seen my mom doing things that filled her cup.
Did she work outside though? She did.
Oh yeah, she worked.
She worked. But outside of that, it was like my mom too, right? Same thing. It was like she worked. And I always appreciated that she worked, and she was very much an independent person in that way. But like the home role was the home role. My dad did quite a bit. I will not say that my dad helped a lot, and my dad still helps a lot around the house. So, but it was also my dad's agenda that I be as independent as I am. That was my dad's agenda. That was like, you are a girl, you will be independent. Like it was that perspective. It's like, you will do it for yourself. You will create your own money. You will have your own career. You will not rely on a man. And you will he came from a very woman dominant family, like where women were very much considered and upheld. So I'm fortunate in that respect. And so, I think all of those little pieces have, they work together. I think we can all find the messaging that we want to carry with us and apply that. I think a lot of us take messaging that's not ours, and that's what we carry with us. And that's why we get stuck in like, I can't do this, or I have to say yes to this, or, I think finding like your own voice within all of that is also, sort of the solution. I think that is ultimately the way forward.
And like full circle back, like you need to be in touch with yourself, your intuition, your whatever, to be able to know what it is that you want.
Yeah. Then you should take yourself out for dinner and sit at the bar and talk to the bartender.
Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, it's been a great way to try new places, or just, I don't know, like I just really, really enjoy it. I really, really enjoy it. And again, like I've put many of my clients who were open to doing it this way on this mission. Yeah. I literally just had a client, she lives in New York, and we were talking about it the other day, and she similarly said she's never done it before. She's never taken herself out for dinner before, or just even like for a drink or for coffee even, right? And so last week she was like, it's like literally, she's like, I've been doing it every day. She's like, I've been doing it every day. She's like, it's such a simple thing I never thought about. And she's like, I love it. She's like, I'm creative. Like she's got a very, very, very big business. And she's also entering the startup space. And she's like, all of my greatest ideas are coming. And she's just like full of like self-love and energy. And because she was having a bit of an imposter syndrome, walking into rooms where she felt, she's very young, she's in her 20s. And she was walking into rooms and not feeling like she was like not able to be fully present with herself, yeah, right? Or confident in her ability. And so I wanted her to spend more time with herself, reminding herself of who she is and what she's capable of. And it's been pretty cool to see.
Nice. Do you give them any like things that they're doing while they're on their date?
Depending on what they're, like sometimes it's like read a book, because a lot of my clients have struggle focusing and allowing their minds to be still, and they're not in a place for meditation and things like that, right? Like it's just like, can I focus on this thing that's pleasurable, yeah, for me, right? Like, yeah, not like a school book type of thing, like something like, I don't care if it's trashy romance, right? I just want you to like, or sometimes it's just striking up a conversation with a stranger, talk to the person at the bar next to you, right? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think I've heard you say that you do that, and I just never really like, that's a really interesting thing. but I haven't done it. So I'll try it out.
Yeah, try it out. See how it fits, right? And it might not fit for everybody, but I think it's like, I think there's an iteration of it available for everybody, right? Whether that's you go sit in a library, whether that's like whatever it is, right? But it's not like actively, it's not going to the gym. That's different, right? That's with a particular agenda, with a particular, going to the gym is a great way to meditate too. I believe that going to the gym is a great way to like return to your own energy, but like that's not quite the same activity. No. It's not connective in the same way.
It's interesting. I just have to try it. I don't know.
Try it on. Maybe like when you're just driving one day and you got like 40 minutes, 30 minutes, just stop in somewhere.
Okay. So it's not a long thing.
Dude, it could be whatever you want it to be.
Oh, I need to like block off a whole day until I go out and speak.
No, you do not have to do that. Like often it will be like, okay, I've got 45 minutes. I don't know. I was at a doctor's appointment. I got 45 minutes before I have to pick up 7. I could go home and work. Yeah. I could run an errand, or I could take this 45 minutes really intentionally and go sit somewhere and be with myself. And many times I will choose to go sit down somewhere and be with myself.
Okay.
Okay. Report back. Report back. Everyone wants to know how it goes. Anybody who is listening right now has the same assignment. This week, turn off the podcast and figure out where you're going to go and when you're going to go do it.
For 30 minutes. Make it doable.
Okay. We'll start with 30 minutes. If you can't stand yourself for 30 minutes, I think you might need to hit me up for some guidance. I'm just saying.
No, I don't know. I don't know what's going to come up because I don't feel like it's that hard.
No, I don't think anything is going to come up. I think you're going to just be like, oh, like I'm just having a coffee by myself. Like it's not that freaking, it doesn't have to be that deep or like transformative. What it is though, it's you just being with yourself and in your thoughts and just not distracted by all the things on your to-do list, right? Like it's another way of quieting your mind. It's another way of removing yourself from the world and your responsibilities for a moment, just so you can lean back into your own energy.
Yeah. I think the hardest part of that is probably like not looking at my to-do list or not going to a coffee shop and be like, let me bring my laptop. Yeah. Right? Like that's what's going to happen.
Yes. And that's what we're not going to do. That's what we're not going to do. I spent 3 weeks in Mexico by myself. I had so much time to myself. And like I read books. I like created ideas. I reminded myself of all of the wonderful things that I am that I forget to remind myself of because I was in an environment where it's very easy to fall into imposter syndrome or to compare or to whatever. And I just like, I look back and I'm like, I wish I could do that again. Like, like I cherished that time. And it was just such a transformative time for me, those 3 weeks. And of course, that was a very long, extended amount of time. But it has 1000% made me a new person. I'm like a whole different person because I had that time. Since I came back from there, because I had that amount of time and I was very intentional about how I used it for myself, I worked, but I didn't like put a ton of pressure on myself to like work. I really did look at it as an opportunity for me to be working on a project, but also for me to replenish myself and decide who I wanted to become through that experience. And so it was transformative for me. So I think what I'm saying is like, the more you do it and the more intentional you become with it and the more you allow yourself to leave your laptop at home and to remove yourself from all of those things, the better that stuff gets. Mm-hmm. Right? Because you have space and it doesn't feel urgent and it doesn't feel like a fire that needs to be put out right now, right? Like you just can relax a little bit more into like just a quiet space. And I think that that's where creativity really lives.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. And I think, it show like obviously I have that, I create spaces for that, but it's just different. I've never been out of the house. So I think it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think, like sometimes just removing ourselves from the environment that we're commonly in is it's just like a different shake up.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. All right, cool. This is going to be fun.
I know. I can't wait to hear about it. You're going to come back and be like, yeah, it was cool. Nothing happened. Like, it was just so easy. And like, I just had my coffee and went home.
But you never know. Never know.
That's funny. But like, I think it's also like, okay, well then I can do it again, right? And do it again. All right. Well, we'll keep you posted.
Yeah.
At least Aumatma will on her
The quest for date with self journey.
Yes. I love it. All right, y'all. Thanks for hanging with us.
Thank you.